Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new American Tier 8 Premium Medium tank, the M26 Pershing T99. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the T99, I'm going to call it T99 because it's easier that way. It's the M26 Pershing, but with some rocket tubes. Now these rocket tubes are very, very similar to the Calliope in that they are unguided. And that means that once you've fired them, they are dummy rockets. So they'll just go exactly where you fired them, and that's it. Which means they're pretty easy to evade. And they are pretty much exactly like the Calliope in the fact that they're not that useful generally, but they can be a good utility in the fact that if you catch someone out, they can absolutely wreck them very, very quickly. But if they are paying attention, they can get out of the way of the rockets really, really easily too. They also have 150 meters convergence point, and by that I mean where they meet in the middle from firing, because they fire sort of slightly inwards. And that is a bit of a pain at distance for these rockets as well, because unless the thing is within about 100 meters of you, these rockets will fly off into the distance away from your target, which can also be a bit of pain, so just bear that in mind. But generally, it plays like a Pershing. You play it like a Pershing, you're going to have a good time. And the Pershing is a fairly average Tier 8 medium tank. That is what it is. Although it does have absolutely fabulous DPM. And that is one thing that this M26 Pershing T99 has in abundance, is DPM. It is really, really nice in terms of how the gun handles and the DPM, just like the standard Pershing, to be fair. And actually, it's got better DPM than the standard Pershing fully upgraded. If you use the stock gun of the standard Pershing, you will have DPM very, very similar. But you don't get the penetration like this thing does. But yeah, it's basically a Pershing. If you've played through the Tech Tree Pershing, you'll know exactly what you'll get from this vehicle. If you don't like the Tech Tree Pershing, naturally you're not going to enjoy this vehicle. If you like the Tech Tree Pershing, you're definitely going to enjoy this thing, because it's sort of a jack of all trades. It can't really bounce much, but it's got the kind of armor that can bounce, but you don't want to rely on it. The DPM's great. The gun handling's great, the penetration's pretty damn good, but the mediocre mobility can be a bit of a pain at times to try and get you to the position to catch things out early, right? And then you do have these rocket tubes on top to catch people out if they aren't paying attention, or to try and get rid of the YOLO scouts and track them in their place if they do come in too close to you. I have very much enjoyed this tank though, generally, but that's because I do love the Pershing. So without further ado, let's get into the statistics of the T99. So we've got 48 km/h top speed with a 20 km/h reverse speed, 704 horsepower on the engine, which gives you a 17.21 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do hit the 48 km/h top speed. It does feel a little bit sluggish sometimes to get up to it, but generally you do hit it, which is nice for the T99. You have 20% internal fire chance, which is on the high end of the fire chances. I've not really been set on fire in it yet, but I'm touching wood right now. But yeah, I've not been set on fire in it yet, but it is on the high end of the fire chances, so bear that in mind. You have 1,450 hit points, which is a decent slab of hit points for a Tier 8 medium to have, and it's actually slightly above average, I'm pretty sure, for a Tier 8 medium, because a lot of Tier 8 mediums are running about 13 to 1,400, so 1,450 is quite nice for this T99. You've got 36 degrees a second hull rotation speed, which isn't the slowest, but isn't the quickest. It's one thing you might want to work on to get better, because when it's trying to turn, it does feel a little bit sluggish in turning its tracks. You got 2.1 on soft, 1.3 on medium, and 1.1 on firm, which isn't actually that bad for a medium tank, realistically. Doesn't really hold back your top speed that much. You've got 338 meters of still concealment, which is pretty decent for a medium tank. You can knock that down if you wanted to with a camo net, but I just tend to give it the camo skill and then deal with the fact that I'm not quite as stealthy as some other medium tanks at this tier. And you have 390 meters of view range, which is pretty nice. You can use that to good effect to be able to spot for yourself. Obviously, a lot of tanks at tier 8 are starting to run 380, so 390 is quite nice for the T99. You've got 38 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is only just a little bit quicker than the hull rotation. So if you do make the hull rotation better with something like clutch braking or traction system, etc., etc., just bear in mind that your turret traverse will end up starting to struggle to keep up with the hull rotation. So yeah, just bear that in mind. You have 1.64 accuracy during rotation, with 2.42 accuracy during movement, which means that your gun does bloom out quite a bit if you do not run the gun stabilizer and run the gun perks. I ran a game without the gun stabilizer, and the bloom on the gun was pretty massive, so I decided I didn't want to put up with that, to be honest, and just ran with the gun stabilizer. So you want to try and do everything you can to get that better. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, which is fantastic, just like the standard Pershing. You're going to do fantastically on a ridgeline and love life if you get there, and generally this tank wants to be on a ridgeline if it can do. Limit the amount of chance for people to penetrate its hull. You've got 6.9 second reload, which is 2088 DPM. When you fully equip this tank out, you can get it up to about 2.8, 2.9k DPM, which is absolutely beautiful. You've got 0.36 accuracy, which is definitely getting onto the derpier end of accuracy for a gun. Because once you're going above 0.35, I should say, that's where it starts to get derpier. But it's still not too bad, and you can get that down to a good level with the crew skills and equipment. You've got 2.1 second aim time as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Means this gun does aim in pretty damn quickly, and especially with getting the bloom down by helping it out with the crew skills and stuff, the aim time is absolutely fabulous, and this gun is pretty much ready to go most of the time, which is why you really want to focus on the gun on this tank, because that is the key selling point of how good this thing can be, is how many shots you can get down range and keep the DPM flowing, and being able to hit those shots as well, right? You've got 221 pen on the standard AP rounds, with 268 penetration on the premium APCR rounds, which is the same as the standard Pershing. And you have 975 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 1219 on the premium APCR, which means the APCR is absolutely fantastic on this tank, and the standard AP will feel a little bit more derpy. So if you start firing the premium rounds, you will go, oh, this gun feels lovely, and that's because you get an extra 300 meters, well, an extra 200 and a bit meters a second shell velocity. And then you've got the rocket launcher, which has a 10.9 second reload, which you knock down to about 7 seconds, I think it was, or something like that, for these rockets, which then you load 4 of them in the clip. They have 72 penetration and 300 damage on them. So 72 pen's quite nice. That means that when you get the rear of a lot of tanks, you will pen them. And that means you're doing 1200 damage with these rockets, but they have to hit the right spot, which with the convergence points and all that sort of stuff, there's a lot of things that can go badly for these rockets to not hit those spots. So they're a bit derpy, they're sort of a bit derpy and a bit unreliable in that way. But 72 pen is great, because that means you can also pen quite a few sides as well, as if you avoid the spaced armor, which means they can be used pretty decently in utility. You've got 264 meters a second rocket speed as well, which means they do travel fairly slow, which means if one of these things does start to fire rockets at you, you can just get out of the way the rockets really, really easily. They are very exceptionally easy to avoid, just like the Calliope's rockets as well. And it doesn't matter about accuracy or aim time, because that doesn't affect this thing whatsoever. It does fire the rockets in 0.33 of a second though, so if you just hold the trigger down within 1.2, 1.3 seconds, you have fired all of the rockets. And there is your bonuses for the T99. You've got 150% silver bonus, which is on the low end for silver bonuses for tier 8. You've got 110 tank XP bonus and 100% commander XP bonus. So the bonuses aren't that great for the T99 though. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on this tank? Well, I run, let's just go put it in its place. Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Clutch Braking, Camouflage Expertise, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. The 3 gun perks to make sure that this gun is as good as humanly possible, so I can actually make it be able to hit all of its shots like on the move, and in general make the gun bloom as low as possible so that I can just keep this fantastic DPM working. And that is the strength of the Pershing. This is what you want to use. You want to use the fantastic gun to good effect, so you want to make sure that that gun is hitting every shot, and it's making the most and maximising that DPM by hitting those shots and penning them, right? Camouflage Expertise to knock the camo down a little bit, just so that I can try and stay a little bit more stealthy in bush cover and stuff like that, just to help it out just a little bit, right? And then Clutch Braking to be able to make the track traverse better, because like I say, when it's trying to turn left or right on the spot, it does feel like it takes a little bit of an age sometimes. It just feels a little bit sluggish to me. So for me, I just wanted to make that better, which is why I run Clutch Braking. And realistically, these 5 perks you're going to run on every single tank in World War II. But you could quite easily switch Clutch Braking out for Rapid Aim to make the track traverse better if you wanted to. If you feel like you get tracked all the time and want to get the tracks back on quicker, put Track Mechanic on. You could run Armour Angling on it to reduce damage incoming if you wanted to. Supply Conservation to get your consumables back a bit quicker. Or run Silent Driving as well to help the Camouflage perk. You know, there's plenty of things that you could run if you wanted to. It's down to you and how you feel comfortable in playing the vehicle. And then in terms of equipment, well, food always, because the food boost is massively impactful. Advanced Loader, the gun stabilizer, and optics. Optics to be able to spot for myself as a medium tank when I get to those aggressive ridge lines and bush cover areas, right? I want to be able to spot for myself and get good view range out, and that way I can pump up my assisted damage in games. The gun stabilizer to make sure that, like I say, the gun bloom isn't that big on this vehicle, because if you don't run the gun stabilizer, the gun can feel like it blooms out massively, and then you feel like you're waiting for it. You can't snap shots quite as well, right? Which is why I run the gun stabilizer, and then the advanced loader to make the DPM as fantastic as possible, which is one of the strengths of the vehicle. So let's have a quick look at the module viewer so that you do get a look at where the ammo racks are. That's where the ammo racks are on the M26 Pershing, or the T99, I should say. So if you want to ammo rack this thing, just shoot it in center mass underneath the turret, and that is where you're most likely to ammo rack it. And there's the engine. It's a massive block at the back of the tank. If you want to try and knock out the engine or try and aim for a point to set on fire, just aim for that engine block at the back of the tank. In likelihood is you will set this thing on fire, or you'll just knock out the engine, right? And that is where the 5-man crew sit in the Pershing. And then in terms of armour, let's have a quick look at the armour. It doesn't really have much. It's got 203mm on the gun mantlet, with 127 on the down bit, 114 there, 111 on the turret sides. Like, the armour on this tank, oh yeah, and then 101 on the upper plate, look. The armour on this tank isn't great, but it's enough, right? It's enough to ricochet the odd shot. So if you go hull down and use your full gun depression in the M26 Pershing or the T99, right, you will ricochet the odd shot off your turret, but you do not want to sit in front of people and go, haha, my turret's fantastic, and think you're going to bounce things, because you probably won't. Do not trust the armour, but know that it can be used, and especially if you're top tier against tier 6s and 7s, it could actually be quite nice, but if you're against tier 9s and 10s, they will butcher your poor turret front, so just bear that in mind. So what's the statistics of this tank? Well, it's fully equipped out. Well, here we go. We've got a 39.24 degrees a second hull rotation speed, so we've gone up by 3.24 on the hull rotation speed, which is nice. The ground resistances have got a little bit better. Our camo's gone down to 327 meters of steel concealment, which again is not much better, but it's a little bit better. We've got 499 meters of view range, which is nearly 500, which is lovely. It will help us get assistance damage and spotting. We've got 41.27 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is still quicker than your tracks, which is great. You've got 0.87 accuracy during rotation now, which is a hell of a lot better than it was at 1.4 something. You've got 1.38 accuracy during movement now, which is a lot better than the 2.4 it was, which means the gun doesn't bloom out anywhere near as much as it did. You've got 0.29 accuracy now, which is great. 1.93 second aim time, fantastic. A 5-second reload nearly, which gives you 2.8, nearly 2.9k DPM, which is absolutely fabulous on this M26 Pershing T99. And then obviously if you boost with food, that's getting even better. You're touching nearly a 3k at that point. And yeah, you've got a 7.95 second reload on your rocket tubes as well, which, yeah, is pretty damn nice for the T99. And then if we were to have a quick look at the standard Pershing, to have a look at what the stats compare between the, the premium version and the standard version, you're seeing that power to weight wise, this has got 16.4, whereas the T99 has a 17.21. So for some reason, even though this has actually got rocket tubes on the side, it's actually lighter than the standard M26 Pershing, so you get better power to weight. I suppose that's because this is technically the other gun, that this is actually the stock gun that the Pershing gets, as opposed to the top gun, which is why the barrel on this one is longer and the T99 has a shorter barrel. But yeah, you've got a 5.32 second reload, so you've got a 0.3 second of a reload worse on this standard Pershing. You've got 0.28 accuracy though, which is slightly better than the T99. 1.93 second aim time, which is on par with it. The 1.21 accuracy during movement and 0.76 accuracy during rotation is a little bit better, I believe. Yeah, it's better than the T99, so it actually doesn't bloom out quite as much. 2.7k DPM, like I say, is 160 worse DPM than the T99 is. You got the same shell velocity, and then the hull rotation speed is actually faster on this vehicle as well, same as the turret traverse being faster than the T99 too. You've got similar camo and better view range on the Tech Tree Pershing. So there's kind of some things the Tech Tree Pershing is better than this vehicle, some things it's not. But this thing has the utility of the rockets, which aren't always that useful, quite frankly, but they can be pretty nice sometimes, especially when you catch people out, or people just sit there and go, shoot me, and you go, well, okay then. And the Pershing is, or the T99 is nearly 9,000 gold, which is pretty decent. And, you know, if you do like the look of this tank, it's not the worst pickup in the universe. But like I'll always say, always wait for discounts. Always, always, always. Because you think if that's like, what, 20% or 30% discount on the base bundle, you're probably talking like near 7,000 gold, which is a lot better than paying nearly 9, right? So, yeah. But anyway, that's the T99. That's all the statistics. That's all you need to know about this vehicle. What I'm going to do now is send you over to the replays where you can see this tank in action, watch how it handles, and then you can make your own mind up on the tank. Like I say, if you have played the Pershing in the tech tree, you will know exactly. That's one of those things where it's quite nice sometimes when they release a premium that's basically the tech tree version, right? That if you've played the tech tree version, you've basically already test driven this tank, except for with the little gimmick on it. So if you know you like the Pershing, this is one that you'll probably enjoy. If you don't like the Pershing, you probably won't enjoy this thing, right? But yeah, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can watch it play, watch how it handles, and see if you would enjoy it. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the T99, and this first game we are on Himmelsdorf. It's a tier 9 game, and I really want to go towards the train tracks. Why do I like going to the train tracks in tanks like the T99 or just generally the M26 Pershing? I like going there because from there I can get shots down the 3 line, and if they do go to the hill, I can get quite easy shots at them as they come round the castle. But we ended up spawning in a weird spot, so we ended up like coming the wrong way. So I was like, you know what, I can't go round this corner safely because the WZ-120 is looking at me. There's stuff down the middle of Himmelsdorf that is also trying to look at me. So you know what, let's just see if we can get some free shots at these guys. We got one into the WZ-120. We're now trying to look for shots into the Object 252U, which is the unskinned defender's lower plate, which we did get one in. We get another shot nicely into the upper plate there of the WZ-120, the 221 penetration really being quite nice there for the Pershing or for the T99. And I decided, okay, I'm making the cross now. This is not... if I sit here for too long and they get on the hill, they'll start being able to shoot down on me, and I do not want to be taking the hits from them. So we're going to go to the train tracks to go help win at this flank, because they do seem to have sent a lot of people to the hill, and a lot of them were sitting down the middle road or, you know, just along the G line in general. So we're going to go get ourselves stuck in with this Pershing. So we see the STRV S1. Now I have a 90mm gun, which means I can't overmatch the upper plate of that S1. I have to hit the cupola if I want to pen it. But the thing is, if I hit the cupola of an S1 with HE, I will pen that cupola with HE, same as I would with AP, and if I don't hit the cupola, then I'll just splash it. Which is why I instinctively always, if I know that I can't overmatch a Swedish TD, I will just load HE, because the likelihood is I'll always do damage to it, and I will also possibly set it on fire, all those good stuff, which is why I do it. And we did manage to get like 2 or 3 shots into him for a couple of hundred damage, where we wouldn't have done any damage whatsoever. I thought the T49 might actually drive out around the side of that building, but he doesn't, and he gets shut down by the 704. There's now a 705 appeared. It's like, well, hello, Mr. 705. We look for the shot into what is actually his back end, so I decided, okay, I'm going to fire some rockets. Unfortunately, they both miss. Well, one hits, but the other 2 miss, and that's because they are so slow. And that guy just simply moved, and that was it, and he managed to avoid it. We've loaded premium for the 268 pen, because that's the way we're guaranteed going to be able to actually go through a 705, and he ends up getting shut down by the Ho-Re-2. We started to side scrape him, because we do have 76mm of side armor on the T99 and on the standard Pershing as well. That does help you actually side scrape in a Pershing. You can side scrape in the Pershing quite effectively. You just really got to watch the angles for which you are giving your armor towards the enemy tank, right? And you've got to watch what you're facing as well, because obviously some of the tanks that have supremely high penetration or really high calibers might just go, ha, lol, and still pen you anyway. So you do have to be very, very careful when you are side scraping, especially because the angle is a little bit weird on the side, but it can do it. It's not like a tank that's pure paper that could never side scrape, because it can actually do it, and you will see a fair few bounces off it if you do try to. So we see the base is under threat. Okay, there's 6 tanks left on the enemy team. It's 8-6, which means it's still technically on a knife's edge. And we're just going to charge in. We're going to get back to base and try and defend if we can. We don't want to lose this game if we can help it. So we're up to 2.4k damage with 1200 assistance, which is pretty decent so far. We spot the fatherland, but it's like, hello, Mr. Pershing. I'm coming for you, my son. I am you, but premium. Rockets. And the rockets did basically nothing. But our DPM is better than him, and we do manage to get rid of him there. Oh my lord, we're 666. Oh, it's fine. We're not the devil anymore. The motherland made sure of that. We fire some rockets at the motherland, but he gets his tracks back on, which means we don't get the rocket in there. Look for the shot snapped in towards him, and unfortunately it doesn't hit before he goes down. But we finish the game with the 3.1k damage, 1762 assistance, the epic victory. Second on the team as well, which is not too bad for a tier 9 game. The medals with the second class and the Confederate for 1655 base XP, a fairly average game for the T99 there on Himmelsdorf, in a not so nice matchup as well at tier 9, which is pretty good. And like I say, it's just a Pershing. It does what it does. Use that DPM to good effect and you will have a great time. Try and keep yourself as a second line support so you're not always the focus of everyone's attention, because the moment that people decide that you're the one that's going to get shot, naturally your hit points are going to take a dive, because your armour, like I say, the armour on the Pershing, same as the T99, is usable but not reliable. You should never try and rely on the armour of the Pershing ever. But know that if you do try and poke, like on a ridgeline using 10 degrees gun depression, using the turret armor, you can ricochet shots because of angles, right? You know, even bat chats with like 40 odd millimeters of armor, or even 35, whatever it is on a bat chat, right? You know, 40 millimeters of armor on a bat chat, for example, is what it feels like, right? It's got no armor whatsoever, but the bat chat ricochets shots. And that's because angles exist. And it's the same for the T99 on its turret. It is a sloped turret front. It will ricochet shots if you're hull down. But don't think that you're going to face a Conqueror, for example, and the Conqueror won't pen your turret front, because it will. You just got to know what you're facing to know what you're not or what you are going to bounce. So, we've shut down that poor CS-44. I tried to meme him with the rockets. This game is all about the rockets, to be honest. I tried to meme a lot with the rockets, and I end up costing myself a lot of hit points and stuff like that in this game, just purely because I'm like, rockets! Let's go, rockets! And yeah, we play like an idiot sometimes, but you know, and also we go down in a funny way too. You'll see that when we get there. So we're just trying to get some shots into that IKV. If I just switched to the main cannon there, I would have had a kill, but I was like, no, I want to use my rockets, buddy. And sadly, we just didn't hit it, because trying to hit shots with the rockets on tanks on the move is exceptionally difficult, and it doesn't happen very often. So we see the Astron rocks, and it's like, oh no, that's an Oni. We fire some rockets down range. One of those rockets penned. I mean, it was his side, and it was 75mm of pen, but one of those penned. That's quite surprising. So we actually ended up hitting him for 300 there, which is, again, the utility. It's not always going to work, but when it does work, it's kind of nice. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go in on this Astron Rex. I felt like he'd fired all of his rounds at this guy next to me, but sadly, he'd actually still got 2 rounds left. And we've ended up ricocheting 2 shots off him, which is really awkward. We've decided with the Tiger 131 we're going in. We ricochet a shot with the auto aim, because we shouldn't potato aim. We fire the rockets in because he gave us his rear. He made the mistake. He gave us his rear while we were firing rockets, which meant that they actually penned his rear for 300 odd, set him on fire, and the Astron Rex got shut down. Sadly, the T-28 Prot didn't give us enough of his butt to slam the rockets home, but he ends up getting shut down by the Su-152. There's 10 tanks left on the enemy team. It's 14 of our tanks, so we're still winning, but, you know, we're only 4 tanks up, and we're going to go attack these guys on the corner. Now, this is where we're going to make mistakes, but at the same time, this is where I was just trying to rocket people, right? So we get a tracking shot on the FV4201, and I'm like, let's fire some rockets. 2 of those rockets hit the wall next to the FV4201, just because of the angle that they fire out of the pods. And 2 of them just did no damage whatsoever, because they don't really have enough pen or anything to go through something like that. But we're just going to keep trying. So we get the tracking shot. The FV201 fires at us, and I'm like, well, sir, I'm now firing rockets at you. 1 does 16 damage, 1 hits and does no damage whatsoever. The other 2 hit the same wall again, because of the way that they come out the left-hand tube, and because of the angle that they fired at and where they converged. We were a little bit too close, and it meant that they ended up hitting the wall instead of the target I was going for. So it's just something you've got to be very, very careful of with these rockets, is where you fire them and how close to buildings and stuff you are to get the fire in. So once again, you're seeing the 2 rockets hit the rock next to me, and this is where we're going to have an odd occurrence. So we get a shot into the Tiger 131. I'm like, okay, let's side scrape. Oh. That Tiger 131 ricocheted his shell off of the dead wreck into the side of my turret, and that is how he shut him down. That is an exceptionally rare kill for that Tiger 131, so I can't be mad, really. But yeah, it's very rare that you see that we died to a ricochet, because that Tiger 131 couldn't see us. But we do finish the game with 902 base XP, 3.7k damage, 2.3k assistance. Pretty damn nice game there for the T99, which, to be honest, was a fairly average game for the tank realistically, just in how you use the rockets, and you saw how those rockets go. That's the reason I included that replay, was just because I wanted to show you that those rockets half the time are really not useful whatsoever, and you've really got to pick your target to make the most of them. But now we're into the third replay of this video, and this one is on El Alamein. And we are, as you can see, by the 277s on our right and the IS-4 on our left, we are bottom tier, which is not too great. And as you can see, these 277s are clearly like, look at this man's patriotism. You can almost hear the USA, USA coming out of this tank, right, with this camo. And it's like, oh, well, hello, people. Hello, I am a T99. I have rockets. So, yeah, on El Alamein, anyway, what we're going to do is we are going to go to the position at F5 and see if we can catch out anyone that crosses along the J line. Now, for the Pershing or for the T99, having a 48 km an hour top speed, like I said, we do hit it. You see we're hitting like 47, 46, 47. We have a fairly mediocre mobility. We have a fairly mediocre top speed for a medium tank, which means when we do get to the position, most of the tanks that we could have shot have probably already made it across. So we get here, we use our view range, we see the M48A5's already got across, who is not the fastest of medium tanks, but we do catch out the E4. So I'm like, okay, let's fire some rockets down range, see if we can get some in as a cheeky side shot. But sadly, none of those rockets went anywhere near, but we did get 2 shots into the side of that E4, which is quite nice, and a bit of assistance as well, as one of the 277s ends up hitting that guy in the side, which is glorious. So we're just going to sit here and wait, because I'm thinking, is that E4 just going to keep driving across? We see where the artillery fires from, it's like, oh, he does! Hello, Mr. E4. Once again, we readjust and fire some rockets to see if any of them will hit, but all of them miss, well, sort of hit the ridge line, you know, not good times. So we try and get one to the side of the E4, and it just drops low. So we only did track damage, but we do get another shot into his side, which is nice for the penetration there. And we took 942 health off of that tier 10 tank destroyer, which is great. That's great, because he's now like, what, half health? More than that, which is fantastic to do to an E4, because obviously the E4 is an exceptionally deadly tank. You don't want to let that thing get away with all of his hit points if you can help it. So we're going to go help out the other flank now, because I've decided that the other flank is probably boned, and I'm not going to be able to do too much, saying as a, you know, I'm a tier 8 in a tier 10 game. What I want to do is try and help my team, where the majority of them are, win the flank, get moving, and get over. So the 60 TP takes a hit and gets killed, and I'm like, right, okay, you know what? I'm going to go get rid of the IS-7, the IS-3, get after the guys over here. And just as we're moving over, it's like, oh no, that's a 50, 100 above me. He could end up clipping me out if I'm not careful. I just have to run back towards this 50, 100. He takes a big slap from the heavy tanks that were with us, but like I said, I can't go towards their heavy tanks because there's a likelihood that this guy will kill me. So I have to come up on this ridgeline very smartly. I don't want to just go straight over because it will give him free shots. So we use the leverage of the terrain here to be able to get over safely and get ourselves in a good position to get a shot. We fire the round downrange at the T28, but our 268 penetration unfortunately hit the gun mantlet, which was never going to pen. He actually gets a shot straight through our turret front as well, and as you can see, we've got a 4.6 second reload, by the way, when we boost with food, which is absolutely glorious. One into the back of the 5100. 2 of those rockets hit. 2! We managed to do over 600 damage with those rockets at the back of that 5100, which is, again, the utility of the rockets. They are fairly useless in a lot of situations, but they can come in handy. They're also good cover destructors as well. They're also good for just getting rid of destructible cover. But now we're up behind the T-34 Black. It's like, hello, Mr. T-34 Black. Let me pen you and then fire some rockets in. And there we go. Because of the way that these rockets fire, you can just auto-aim and fire them at targets, especially if they're stationary, because the rockets will just fire in the direction that your gun is pointing, or your turret's pointing, right? So we end up getting rid of that T-34 Black there with the rockets. We're up to 2.5k damage with 510 assistance. And there's only 6 tanks left on the enemy team, which means that most of their tanks are going to be towards our base, because the artillery spotted there. There's a TD, which is the T28 spotted at J7. TD spotted at B2, and the 2 guys at D3, as well as the TD that's just got spotted at H4 as well. So we're going to try and get up behind these guys. These guys are all fairly low health, so I know that if I get in, one will take 2 shots to kill, one will take 1 shot, and the AT-15 was still fairly healthy. So we're going to see if we can get over to just get some free shots. But we've got to be careful, because the IS-22, not the IS-22, it's an IS-32, sorry. If the IS-32 decided to poke over, he could end up double barreling us, and if we got unlucky, right, he could end up killing us with a double salvo. So we just got to be careful of that. We fired some rockets towards the mutts, but sadly none of them hit. He ended up hitting us as well, which means we're definitely a one-shot now for the double shot of the IS-32, so we've got to be very, very careful. We end up getting hit by the Lorraine, which we get very lucky there that that shell actually hits that guy as well, so we'll take it. But we're just being very wary, because we know there's an IS-32 around here somewhere. We don't want to be too aggressive, because he'll just double barrel us. And there we go. There he is. Let's get rid of this guy. He's not even looking at us. RBRT. Bam. And then we find the other one. It's like, hello, Mr. G-Saw. Oh, you're not paying attention. Rockets away! And we take around 800 of his hit points in the end there, because he took a hit before. And we get rid of that British Tier 8 TD there with the rockets. Again, if they're not paying attention, they can be pretty useful. And finish with the 4 kills, 4.2k damage. The first class, 1928 base experience. A pretty damn nice game there for the T99 in a bottom tier matchup. And yeah, we're on to the 4th and final replay. The best game I've had in this tank so far. And we are on this map. Pearl River! Let's go! We got there, Pearl River. We're on Pearl River, and what I'm going to do on Pearl River, well, the cap is at J3 because it's encounter, so we're going to go towards the cap so that we can try and defend it if we need to. And you know, most of the enemy team might come this way anyway, because, you know, they'll see the cap and go, yes, we need to get back there and defend it. So, yeah, we're going to use the mobility of the tank to go get hulled down at G1, and then watch what the enemy team are doing, so that we can decide what we're going to do next. And as you can see, it's a little bit slower to get there than a fair few other mediums, because we do sort of chug along at 45, 46, 47 in this T99. This is where I say that, you know, the mobility of the T99 is just a little bit mediocre, which is just the same as the Pershing. The Pershing has the same thing. But now we're at the rock that I want to be. Now we're at this rock here. We can just watch that cross. We can watch that cross and see what actually attacks this flank. So it's just a waiting game at that point. But nothing's crossing, and I was expecting something to have already crossed by now. So I decided, okay, you know what? If there's no one here already, and you can see I've still not spotted anything as we're moving up. So there's no one attacking this flank. So we may as well move up and see if there's anything on their sniper hill, because there's usually something on the sniper hill camping at J5. So we just want to see if we can spot it. So we find the CS-53, hit him on the move with the RBRT, but sadly it bounced, which is very unlucky, really. But we do get the second shot in. Fire some rockets down range at the CS-53 because we did track it, which, you know, all 3 hit. Well, 3 out of the 4 hit, sorry. And we still managed to do about 300 damage to him there with those rockets in total, which is an extra little... It just keeps the damage ticking. So we're up to 786 damage, sorry, with 532 assistance. Looking for the shot into the T-54 Mod 1, but we can't find it. We get lucky that we bounced the Charioteer there, but we were at an extreme angle. And actually looking at the damage we'd blocked, 230. That Charioteer has the 20-pounder, so he is stock. So he's got similar penetration to me. So with that extreme angle that we actually had on the Pershing there, he wasn't the most likely. Plus, I'm actually less scared of the Charioteer now. Yes, the Charioteer with the 20-pounder has some fairly fearsome DPM. But at the same time, I'm not scared of it, like it would be if it had the Hesh gun. But oh, hello, Mr. IKV. I hope you enjoyed your RAM. And we get rid of that Swedish Tier 7 TD there with the beautiful RAM. We get shot from the middle as well. It's like, hey, who dares shoot me? Unfortunately, we missed the shot there on the side of the T28, but it is what it is. We're now where we want to be, which is underneath the gun line of their camper hill. We're progressing this fight, which is what you always want to be trying to do. And we're also spotting the people like this charioteer. We find the mod 1. We're just looking for the shot if we can, but there is a dead wreck in the way. We end up spotting the arty as well. We get rid of the T-54 mod 1. The Ferdinand drives around, so we want to be careful of that guy because we don't want to take a 490 hit from him. And you know what? If we can see that FV305, we're going to try and rocket him if we can. But sadly, once again, just because of the proximity to the rock on our left, you have to be really careful when firing these rockets. All the ones that came out the left-hand tube hit the rock, and the other two just didn't go anywhere near. We're going for the cheek weak spot of the Ferdinand, which isn't the easiest to pen these days since it's been buffed, but at the same time, with tier 8 penetration, you still be able to go through it. That 305 is giving us free shots into him, which we're always going to take, because Mr. Artillery, I do want to get rid of you. We try and get some rockets downrange, but they all hit the ridge line, which is sad, but we are pixel shotting this artillery. It's like, well, good night, Mr. FV305. Jumbo Burt, get out of my game. And it's time to move up on this Ferdinand. Now we've got a heavy tank friend that is also going to be distracting the Ferdinand. What I want to do is try and get round him, rocket him, and then finish him off if they don't. So he's still giving us his side. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to launch the rockets on my way in, which actually tracked him in place. So it worked out in the end. Pins him in position, and we use our fantastic DPM at 4.6 seconds with a food boost to get rid of the German tier 8 tank destroyer there. There's 4 tanks left on the enemy team. It is 8-4, so the likelihood is we're going to win this game, which is great. We're up to 3.2k damage with the 4 kills, 618 assistance, and I'm just going back to see if there's anything sitting towards their spawn area, because there might be something camping on those hills over there, or there might be someone camping at somewhere like E8 or D9, because that's where people do tend to sit, so they can shoot you as you come towards their cap. But we find no one, so we move up very aggressively to this ridgeline here. We find the Indian Panzer, which we got a nice RBRT into, which is why we spec for full gun handling on this tank, because the gun handling can be great, and you can use the fantastic DPM to your advantage there. We took a big hit from the SU-101, though, as we were trying to get a shot into the Cheeto SP, but he ends up ricocheting off our turret front because we are using our gun depression here, and we're just being as careful as possible because I don't want to lose any more hit points to that SU-101 if I can help it, and I'm expecting him to at some point come back out and try and get us, and there we go, he is coming after us. We fire the rockets at the SU-101, for which only 2 actually hit and do 92 and 70 damage, but he's given us his lower plate, so we're just going to take the free shots into his lower plate, and again, you can see the fantastic DPM. Fire the rockets at that guy, because maybe we can splash him to death, but again, none of those rockets hit him, which is, it's just what these rockets do. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, which is why I say they are sort of useless in quite a lot of situations, but sometimes can be useful. And I decide, yep, Indian Panzer, you're dying to rockets, buddy. Rockets away! And we get the kill on the Indian Panzer for our Top Gun, secured with the gimmick of the tank. Glorious scenes. We finish with the victory, 6 kills, 4.9k damage, 972 assistance, the ace tank of the Pascucci's Top Gun, the high caliber, with 2,236 base XP. A really great game there for the T99 M26 Pershing. It's a pretty damn okay tank. It's what the Pershing is. I love the Pershing, so I'll always do well with it. If you don't like the Pershing, you won't like this tank. If you do like the Pershing, you probably will enjoy this vehicle. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.